Okay, guys, in Grimerica tonight, we're going to be talking to the Crrow777. He's a creator of a YouTube channel that has been blowing our minds around here lately. Graham especially. So how's it going, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Good.
Darren says that I'm going down the rabbit hole already here, Crrow. So, you've got this YouTube channel called the Crrow Discovery Project, and basically it's like all HD footage of. You've got some stuff on chemtrails and some orb action going on in there, and there's a lot of moon and lunar stuff. You've captured this moon wave, this lunar wave that we want to really get into, and I don't know, for all the listeners out there, you know, we've talked about some paradigm shattering stuff in Grimerica before, but this one, like, hold on your seats, this type of stuff that Crrow's gonna tell us about, and it's coming from a place where he's got some pretty damn good evidence himself here, and he's come to some pretty crazy conclusions. But this could be very, very
pretty mind blowing,
paradigm challenging for a lot of people.
We were just watching the video like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Every time you watch it, it's still pretty crazy.
Yeah. So anyways, no more further ado. Welcome to Grimerica, Crrow.
Thanks for having me. And just out of the gate, I'll make it very clear. My YouTube channel is Crrow777. There's 2 R's in the word Crrow. But I call what I do the Crrow Discovery Project, just so there's no confusion.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. So let's start with that, like the summary of that, maybe just so people, I've heard you on THC and all, but it sounds like you're going to be starting kind of your journey of talking about this to a lot of different shows. So our listeners probably haven't heard much about you. I'd only heard about you once before the last month or so. So maybe just summarize your channel and how you started capturing all that stuff.
Well, I can tell you, this is how Crrow777 channel started. I had family over, and I was using the first scope that I had. It was an 8-inch scope, and we were just optically looking at the supermoon in 2012. I think it was May, if I remember correctly. I didn't have a way to film at that point, and my young nephew, who has young eyes, good eyes, said, "Uncle Crrow, there's a triangle going over the moon." And so I jumped in, and sure as anything, there it was. And the funny thing about this is, from our point of view, the moon moves across the sky. So over the course of about 2 or 3 hours, we just saw an endless line of these triangles. And just so people know what I'm talking about, there's a clip on my channel called The Boomerang. And just by chance, later on, after I was able to film, I caught one of those objects. And I know it's the same object because with an eyepiece, you've got more magnification, much better image than the HD video I can produce. At any rate, this was going on, and everyone in the family was watching and just going, wow, what are those things? We saw an endless parade of them, but they remained between us and the moon, which means they were moving from our point of view to stay in that position. And then it culminated near the end of the night where my brother-in-law saw like 5 to 7 of these things in formation. So that's what started my channel, because, of course, the next day I was out getting everything I needed to hook cameras up to the scope. So that's basically the genesis story of my channel.
And then recently, or I guess in 2012, you had captured the first lunar wave, or had somebody else captured that?
No, the first known capture of the lunar wave I did. It was, I think, 3 days before a full moon. Full moon, and it was, it was the 26th. I think it was the 22nd was the equinox. So it was right after the fall equinox and just before a full moon. And to date, it is the best footage in existence that we're aware of. Not only does it capture the whole event in HD, just the way that I shoot the moon so that you get the whole image, not close-up work. It's just a stunning piece of footage. And when I first did that, I didn't have HD monitors or anything. I was looking at my little LCD on the back of a DSLR, and I thought my camera had malfunctioned. So I watched it happen, and there was a crazy camera pan that was just by chance, and a very fortunate camera pan. That camera pan became the only way that I had to prove that it was a filmed event for quite a while. But after it happened, I reached over to delete that clip, and for the only time in my life, I didn't push that button. Don't know why, but I didn't delete it. Had I done that off the camera, it would have been gone. So I think about 3-4 weeks, something close to a month went by, and I kept gnawing on me. And finally one day I went back and looked at it, and I deleted it off my computer. And I was going to bed, and I laid down, and that's when I had the epiphany. And I jumped out of bed, ran over to the computer, booted up, restored the clip out of my trash, and it scared the hell out of me because I realized all at once what the camera pan meant, which is kind of funny because I'm a digital guy. I've got a technical degree, and I think that's what was gnawing on me, that digital instruments do not fail in an organic way like that. But to make a long story short, I realized all at once what I was seeing and that it was local to the moon and that it was a filmed event.
Huh. And can you describe that to people? Because when I first heard you talk about it too, I was having having a hard time wrapping my head around it.
Yeah. Well, basically what you see in the 2012 footage, which is the best footage. Sorry, I'm resetting my camera as we talk here. You see the camera pan down below the moon, and the wave starts at the bottom of the moon, and it will travel from the bottom to the top. I did not see that first little portion, and I panned the camera up above the wave, and that's why the camera pan became so important, because the wave traveled at a constant speed, caught back up to the camera, and came back into frame, at which point I saw it. Now, the lunar wave always happens in pairs. We do have one example from Germany now, and just to be clear to everyone, the 2012 footage is the best, and I didn't see it again until a year and a half later, just before the spring equinox of 2014. So at that point, I had 5 captures under my belt, but no one else apparently did. Now, fast forward to now, we have 9, hold on, let me make sure I get this right. 9 captures, I can't think of it right now. 5 other people have captured this, and there's a number of clips, and each one has provided one. Some of them are close-up. None of them capture the whole event in the way the 2012 thing happened. But the unique thing about the lunar wave is it always seems to come in pairs. So as time went on, I was beginning to realize what it was, and I started to refer to it as a hologram. But what's happened recently is someone sent me an anonymous email from a Russian chat room, and when I translated it, I instantly saw the words lunar hologram, and there was a link to a Russian researcher named Hadibal, that's his nickname, who died in 2011. And this man held secret positions and wrote books and did lots of work on his own. And he basically is of the opinion that all science and technology is a pipe dream. And what he provides is an alternative look at what he believes science should be. But the crazy thing is, in that page that I was linked to out of that chat room was a complete description of what I had come to know about the lunar wave.
Huh. So you're thinking that maybe this wave is caused by it being a hologram, like, and it just happens. Does it happen during certain times, like when this hologram is moving through the sky? Like you say, it's close to a full moon, right? So you think it's something like that?
Well, what I had the points of research that lined up from Hadibal that perfectly lined up with what I had come to know is, number one, near a full moon. Now, Hadibal, with scientific precision, said, no, Crrow, third phase of the moon, up to the year 2012. And the man's dead now, so we're not going to get anything more from him, unfortunately. The second thing was, I had been saying from the outset that the equinoxes play into this. In his research, he says not only do they play into it, but he goes whole hog into why equinoxes are important, particularly the vernal or spring equinox. On top of that, there's just a lot more information that we're still trying to get well translated, because it's very difficult to get technical Russian into English, because the translator has to have a degree of technical ability and good English. So that's been a big problem. Point is, we drew parallels in a number of places, and what I had come to believe is that the moon that we look at is not a rock in orbit. His research backs that 100%, and it goes further. It says things that I'll probably never be able to vet, but what his research says is the moon has 2 surfaces. The one we see and think is a moon, a rock in space. It's 184 kilometers thick on the side we see, but behind it is a control system, and I think he may be saying something about a black cube, but it's hard to describe because the first time people hear it, they think, man, this guy's been smoking peyote. But the truth is, this has been researched for, since 2012. It's never been debunked. And the Russian work is now being taken offline. You can't find Hattie Bau's books that he wrote. We've got people who have downloaded all the library items we can get from this man. But it looks to me like the moon we see is, hologram's not the right word for it. It's a technology that far surpasses anything that could be called a hologram. It's like a facade that is covering something behind it. And when people start to look at this, the first thing they're going to say is, well, wait a minute, 1,000 years ago, people saw the moon, and what controls the tides?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, yeah.
Yeah, so to answer that is, I see a moon, they saw a moon. The tides were for them, the tides are for us. Nothing has changed in this paradigm except for how it happens. What we have been told by NASA, and just to be honest, straight out of the gate, I accept nothing from NASA. Not one image, not anything. If I hear something from NASA, they have lied so many times that it's invalidated to me. As a matter of fact, I'll look in the opposite direction. Having said that, instead of gravity and all these other things that we've been told that are doing all these things, there's literally a control system of some sort, either associated with or covered up by the thing we see that we call the moon and think is a rock in orbit.
So do you think it's possible it could be like almost like some sort of an exoskeleton?
I'm trying to get into that because he goes into this just insane research about octaves and how it was built and how there's some kind of a frequency or some kind of a connection between the sun and this system that we call the moon. To be honest, I'm just not clear yet, but the sense I get is that it's kind of created with octaves in some way, but the thing that it's covering behind it is akin to a space station, or it's a built, constructed thing.
Yeah. Kind of fits in with the UFO myths and stuff about it being, fake or man-made, or like a UFO that's just been there, and maybe it's just cloaked by this.
Yeah, well, I would even think like maybe even a little planet that's got fucking something living on it, and maybe it's like the inside of what we see is like a sky, and it's fucking getting its wool pulled over its eyes too. It's a double whammy.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's hard to imagine this conspiracy going on for so many years, like thousands of years. But you've listed in your video, which is cool. You've listed all the doctors and the scientists that have had this hollow moon theory as well, right? So I appreciate your effort in putting a historical picture together too. It's not just you and your theory about this wave, but you've actually got lots of past documentation and information of really like credible people who have said, look, this moon is hollow, or it's just not even real.
Before it was recorded, was there any reports of someone seeing it but not filming it?
Well, in terms of the lunar wave, as far as I know, in the modern age, I'm the first guy to spot it. Now, I clearly did not discover this. The Russians knew about it, and I'm guessing the head of every state and all the secret societies on this planet are clearly aware of what's going on. But to put this into context for people, NASA has 5 theories on how the moon came to be where it is. The crazy thing about that is you can prove that the first 4 of them don't hold water without even trying. And that is done by simply looking at the last theory they put forward in 2010. From 2010 to 2012, the georeactor theory, I think it's called, they put forward a new theory because they knew the previous 4 didn't hold water. Well, everyone knew it. One of the theories was popular up to the 80s, and then all these theories kept coming to try to tell the people on planet Earth how the moon got there.
Oh, I see. And this is the latest one, yeah.
So 2010 theory comes out, which automatically invalidates all the other ones, or they wouldn't have needed it. But that one has just as many problems as everything that's come before. So you're looking at a space agency that supposedly walked on this thing. It's the closest moon we have. They know more about every other moon seemingly in the solar system than they know about this one, and they can't tell you how it got there. And they're clearly, still trying as of 2010. But I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. What we see here, and it's going to get worse, because as we go into the digital age, books are going to become a thing of the past. Google is scanning books night and day and have been for a lot of years now. And once everything's digital, to change content, meaning it's a very easy thing. But, while you still have books, you can dig up that people like Plutarch, Aristotle, a guy named Censorinus, all talked about a time when this planet had no moon. They even talk about a race called the Arcadians. I think it's the Caldera Indians of Colombia have a history of their people, and they talk about their early existence as a tribe in a time without a moon. Even the Mayans talk about when Venus ruled the sky and there was no moon. I mean, there's no shortage of these histories. The thing is they've been removed from textbooks, or they never made it into the public eye. And so what we get is the accepted party line. But when you begin to look beyond the accepted party line, you understand pretty quickly that there are more strange things that you can find about our moon than there are just run-of-the-mill, accepted everyday things.
What about? Go ahead, Darren.
I wonder. Do you give any credence to the idea that it could be maybe something from because we've talked to a lot of people on this show about like some sort of ancient civilization, like Atlantean being like not a place but a worldwide civilization that existed before some sort of cataclysm. And could this be like, I sometimes wonder if this couldn't be like some sort of lost remnant of theirs.
Yeah, or leftover advancement that they actually made it off the planet back then, before like all the catastrophes, yeah.
So basically, even though what I'm saying here, most people who are introduced to, if you're introduced to this tonight on your show, the average person's going to go, dude, come on, really? The truth is if you can hold your mind open and come at this with an open mind and look into it, you will quickly begin to see that there is some strange things afoot here. Having said that, what you guys just brought up, the average person's never going to be able to vet that in any way. It's like the Anunnaki. Who started that? How do you come at that? How do you ever make heads or tail of it besides what's been handed you? But I can say, according to Hadibal, the Russian research, and here's a guy who the people that are writing his bios now state flat out, we can't even mention a number of the places he works because they were so secret. And I will also add that what really intrigued me as I was trying to vet the value of Hadibal was that apparently before his death, his research was forced out of his hands to Israel with an oil company involved. Now, when that kind of thing goes on, you're not looking at worthlessness. That doesn't happen unless there's some intrinsic value in what's been going on. But what Hadibal claims, and again, I cannot vet this. I will probably never be able to vet this in my lifetime. But what his research from secret government jobs claims, the moon we see got here at around 18,000 BC, which is interesting because I think a lot of people would date the Great Flood in that neighborhood. But
maybe even the pyramids.
Yeah, I can say something about the pyramid too that's kind of a mind bender from his research. So he's saying it was put there then, and he's saying it was put there by people who ain't us. And what he says about those people is, I mean, I don't even know what to do with it. They're described as looking like spiders. So, I mean, when you get information like that, what do you do with it? But my point is, everything else that has lined up with the research I have done tells me I can't prove what he's saying is right. I may never be able to, but just remember it. Keep it in your mind, and who knows what you'll know tomorrow. But you brought up the pyramid. He does a lot with what he called the Cheops pyramid, which to us is the Great Pyramid. In his research, he shows that there's an opening in the pyramid that was aimed perfectly at the North Star, but it's more than a degree off now. So in his research, he says that's why the Egyptologists tell you it's just a ceremonial thing. But what he did was took that measurement and then did a calculation of the tilt and orbit of the Earth and how all that would be without a moon, and he demonstrated that opening would line up perfectly on the North Star. So what he claimed was that is proof that pyramid was built in a time without the moon.
Wow. I'm just thinking.
I've heard that Cheops before.
Yeah. Have you thought about the precession and this being the result of the cause of what we think is going on with the one great year and the precession of all that? Have you?
Well, it's funny when, if you're going to talk about the great year and precession of all this, it's funny how you talk about the precession of the equinoxes. But there's a lot of problems now knowing what I know and in the research. And I don't think he bought into any precession at all. I mean, we're told that in so many years there's going to be a new North Star, and so many years ago some other star was a North Star. I think all that is looked at as poppycock by the Russian researchers. And I would further say there's some PhDs in the Ukraine. A lot of people that speak Russian in that part of the world are really stepping up to kick NASA's ass, frankly. There's one guy who's using the parallax method on all the NASA images from Apollo of the guys on the moon, and he has basically demonstrated that was all done on a soundstage using the parallax method, which any scientist on this planet could go into the lab and replicate on any day of the week. And so this kind of brings us to a problem with where science currently is. Now, I want to preface what I'm about to say by saying I was brought up in an academic family. My father was a PhD, so I'm not here to badmouth science, but I am here to point out the problem with science. Knowing that no one has ever stepped on the moon and that it is a provable thing, even though people will say, oh, you're one of those guys, it comes down to one thing. Science has been taught that they cannot question these things. If you do, you'll lose your job or whatever the problem will be. The fact is that if science would stop, use the scientific method, and do what we see the guys in Ukraine doing, taking all the images and video, applying parallax science, they would demonstrate very quickly that some of those shots where they're supposed to be 5 kilometers and, a mountain 5 kilometers behind them, it's only 2,000 feet. It goes on and on and on. And I actually have a link to that page in one of the recent videos I did, because so many people come in and, they say, well, where's the science? Where's the this? Where's the that? And they don't realize it's everywhere. The science that proves Apollo didn't happen is all over the place. It's just suppressed, and you got to work at it. It's like any research. But once you do it, you'll find out pretty quickly that NASA is built on lies, and in my view, their main mission in life is to ensure that we know next to nothing about what's more than, a few miles over our head.
So speaking of that, a few miles over our head, what do you think then about the astronauts like Edgar Mitchell and these guys who go out into so-called space and they come back with the overview effect and this type of thing where they actually feel like a shift in consciousness? I mean, do you think all that's bogus, or do you think that they're actually out there at the fringes of space to what we know it, and that's as far as they can go? Or how do you feel about that?
I have seen nothing that allows me to believe anyone goes above low Earth orbit. As a matter of fact, here's one for you. And
what would be low Earth orbit? So, because I'm not sure how high that would be.
Well, I mean, you hear 160 to 200 miles. It's over 100 miles.
Okay.
But here's something to think about. I did a clip that took that image of the world from Apollo, whatever number it was, that picture of Earth from space that was done.
The pale blue dot.
I don't know if it's the blue marble one, but it is the one that made it into most of the textbooks.
Yeah.
And it's been seen all over the world. And we were told that NASA took this image of the world from space. Now, I went and did a clip on it to show that that's a fraud. That's not a clicked snapshot from any camera. It's a composite, a mosaic. It's a created image, just like all NASA imagery is. And as a matter of fact, if you look, quite often they will use the words that flat out say this is not a just snapped picture, it's created, but they don't do it in an obvious way. But recently, Neil deGrasse Tyson came out and said, well, we had it wrong. The Earth is more pear-shaped. So do you see the game that's being played? So they gave us the supposed snapshot of Earth from the Apollo missions where we see a perfectly round globe. And now we got Neil deGrasse Tyson out here saying, oh, they had it wrong. Well, how can they have it wrong? That's a picture. You took this picture from space. So you see the games that get played. It's just all a lie. I don't know how else to say that, and I know a lot of people will have problems with it. But if you go look and research for yourself, you'll find very quickly that NASA has handed us next to nothing of value.
So that's like so fucking Orwellian. It's fucking scary.
It is. It's beyond Orwellian. It makes Orwellian look tame.
Yeah, it's just... so what about Edgar Mitchell and these guys then? Do you think that that's just... Like, it's hard to imagine
their pockets lined. They don't seem to lead illustrious lives.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's put this in context. What do you think happened at Sandy Hook? Do you think a bunch of people died that day, or do you think that was a staged event?
Well, I mean, I would go a staged event from what I've heard, but I haven't looked too deep into it. But I mean, I'll put it this way: that wouldn't surprise me. But
it definitely wouldn't surprise.
But the NASA thing seems so so wide, right? Like all the astronauts and the whole thing about going to the moon, and like there's such a production,
See, you're kind of pointing out the problem with understanding the system that was built around you to prevent you from understanding.
Yeah.
If you look at something like Sandy Hook and you understand that the very people who are here to supposedly govern and protect you put a staged event up claiming children were murdered, then pushed it out to the media, where the media played it off as a real horrible event where children were killed and all these bad things happened. Fact is, there is so much documented proof that not only was not an event, that it was staged. I mean, even the internet records. One of the videos I saw recently, someone demonstrated that there was no internet bandwidth to that place for the previous 3 years or something. Anyhow, anyone who wants to look at it with an open mind will quickly understand that it's not real. And the media pushed it as real. The Department of Homeland Security pushed it off as real. Your White House pushed it off as real. If you can understand that and assimilate that into your life, then how is it even remotely possible for you not to consider that astronauts are just lying to you? They're actors. Look at Neil Armstrong as an example. Here's a man who went to the moon, first person to put his boot down on the moon, and then he refused to interview for his whole life. And one of the few interviews that you see of him, he's talking about truth's protective layers. On top of that, there's other things that are blatantly obvious. Like recently, they started talking about the Van Allen belts, and they found this new band in the Van Allen belt that they attributed to being like a glass wall in space. Well, how is it possible that you discover a new Van Allen belt when your boys have been through it, not once, not twice, but you see where I'm going here? And the coding of it all, the people who understand how numbers and dates work, when you go through this stuff, it is Orwellian. There's no other way to put it. It is all a lie, and anyone who seriously looks into it will know for a fact that there is no way to defend it. It's a belief thing. If you choose to believe it, then it's real. If you choose to look at it, you will discover very quickly that nothing you are told by your government, nothing you are told on TV has any validity, because even the actual events are bent so far out of shape for agenda and purpose that it's not real anymore.
Do you think the Russians are in on it then?
Every space agency is. If you go look at any space agency patch on this planet, I don't care if you're looking at Iran or Russia or China, you will see the vector symbol in every one of them. Look at Jade Rabbit right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
There's no Jade Rabbit on the moon. I did a clip on that as well. Every time we have been told there's going to be something going to the moon, landing on the moon, crashing into the moon, I have had my telescope looking, and I have seen nothing, not one thing. But that's kind of like ancillary to this whole thing. The clip that I did on Jade Rabbit showed that the transcript of the Apollo mission echoed decades before the Jade Rabbit tale that they would tell in the modern era here. Not only that, when I went to get the transcript where Collins, I think it is talking about this Jade Rabbit and the lady who rests under a cinnamon tree, it comes from Chinese myth. I was going to lift the transcript and put it into a video, and I read at the bottom that you can't use it or you'll be busted for copyright infringement. So I had to rewrite all this stuff. And I just thought, really? So this country paid all this money to put men on the moon, and you're not allowed to use the transcript, which is open to the public. Why is that? And the reason that is because there is nothing true about any mission NASA has ever done.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting when you put it like that. Yeah, it's kind of scary, actually. That we've gone this far. I mean, do you think we're having to wake up really quick here? Like we've got limited time to wake up in a sense before, like you said, before digital technology starts really taking over. Like once everything becomes digital, like you said, you can basically dictate the search terms and the search results and all that, and there won't be as many books around.
Well, I mean, you nailed it. There it is. I mean, if you had a book that said Secret Society in it and someone pushed a button and said every reference to Secret Society is now going to be unknown persons, you can see what happens. There's no context there. When you read that, you get no sense of what the original meaning was. And that's kind of where we're headed in the digital world. Books are an important thing, and they're going away. There's going to come a time in the future when most things are digital.
Yeah, I don't... Oh man, that's crazy. What do you think?
Well, I've always wondered because it's always seemed crazy to me that there's no they're not putting up pictures of the landing site, because it seems like you've got the technology to take pictures. If you've got things orbiting it, you can be taking pictures of, here's where we landed 60 years later. Here's the zoomed in satellite picture of it. How come I can't see it on Google Earth?
The flag not blowing in the wind.
Or Google Moon or whatever the fuck, right?
There's a story to that too, because people cried for a long time, why doesn't Hubble take an image? And for the longest time, NASA told them, we can't, the moon's too bright. So for some bizarre reason, not too long ago, Hubble took a picture. But you don't see the objects. You see shadows, and of course you're told the flag's tipped over. I mean, anyone who hasn't figured out the United States was demoted on 9/11, that day that changed this planet for a false event, we were demoted. We're not king anymore on this planet, and I don't know who's next, China, but whatever. It took a picture. They made their little, ritualistic, the flags on the ground. I think you're supposed to go up there and burn it or something. I'm not sure, but they showed the shadows. Well, a smart man who understood the mathematics and the optics of the Hubble and all this did a quick calculation and demonstrated that the resolution the Hubble used to image Pluto would have easily imaged the objects themselves, and that those were faked images. But to top it off, I was getting badgered about some of the objects I shot, so I got a complete genius at optics up at the scope shop who did a calculation that told me how wide a pixel was in feet at the lunar plane. And so we were doing calculations. With my old system, I could get 1.5 miles. With the newer system, I could get down to 1.24 miles, but the camera limited me to 1.33 miles. That's with my no-budget, nothing system. Mm-hmm. So now let's talk about, say, a 33-foot scope that's on this planet. There's buggy tracks up there that go something like 7 miles. So why aren't they imaging it? The most important thing man has ever done, going to another world in space, if it was there, it would be imaged endlessly. And the fact is, there are no buggy tracks. And the next argument you're going to hear is, well, what about the reflectors? They shoot lasers to do the ranging experiment. Well, I've been to one of those ranging experiments. You want to know what happens? They shoot a laser that you can see, and I think it's 2.5 seconds or something is supposed to be the return. But what happens is a computer goes beep and says, yep, it worked. You cannot see the return beam. You see nothing. So a computer's saying, yep, you did it. There is absolutely no way for a human being to verify that. I guess unless you're the person who writes the code and makes the dish that supposedly captures the beam. It's all a shell game. The whole entire thing is a shell game.
I want to get into, if you don't mind, get into the orbs and the chemtrails that you've videotaped, because obviously I'm interested in UFOs. And we've talked about orbs on the show. We had a great show about different colored orbs, like the orange orbs, but these are kind of different. And we haven't really addressed chemtrails. Chemtrails, to be honest with you, it's been one of those subjects that I've been on the fence about. When I hear somebody debunk chemtrails, I seem to lean with them a little bit. And then when I hear somebody talk about the reality of chemtrails, I kind of go, oh, that makes sense too. Like, it's a real tough topic for me because I kind of flip-flop back and forth on it. I haven't really, landed on either side. I mean, I try not to, to be too dogmatic in any view, but what about capturing some of those and then the orbs that you've captured in there? And like, you're using, like, again, high def equipment. You want to talk a little bit about that and try and explain to Darren here, who's probably on one side of the fence about chemtrails.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's open this conversation by saying chemtrails are not in doubt. They've been admitted, for Christ's sake. During the Olympics that were in China, it was openly shown that China had a weather modification bureau that they were going to actually employ to do things during the Olympics. I think in 2009, it was reported in the newspaper that they had screwed the weather up so badly that there was a disastrous blizzard because of the Weather Modification Bureau. But there are an endless line of bills and patents and documents from the Air Force that say owning the weather by 2025 that are flat out admitting that they've been working on aerosol technology dumped by planes. When you take it a step further, everybody knows they've been seeding clouds since, the 50s or before to make rain. It's no different. It's dumping things out of planes to get a result. The problem with chemtrails is that it's a global thing, and nobody is admitting what it's for or even who's doing it. But the fact is, those of us like me who have spent thousands of hours filming them, here's a good example. I'm in Southern California, and I live right in the Lindbergh Field International Airport flight path. On one side of me is outbound traffic. On the other side of me is inbound traffic. When they have to circle to land, that goes right around me. I can see it all. In the 10 years I've been here, I have never once seen a commercial plane with passengers, leave any kind of a trail, contrail or otherwise. Doesn't happen. I've seen thousands of them. I have never seen one leave a trail. Now, these other planes that go at all altitudes, and a lot of them are above 40,000 feet because you can see them on flight radar, they are going on these flight paths that are non-typical flight paths. But to say that doesn't mean much. But what you can say about it is the planes that go on these trajectories are always leaving trails. Sometimes it's persistent, sometimes it's not. But you can literally sit in my backyard and I can watch them, and I can tell you if the sky is going to close into a milky white mess in a couple hours, or I can usually predict if it's not. There's different ways that they spray. But what I can tell you is the strangeness doesn't end there, because there are often these weird objects that you mentioned that we call orbs, and they seem to be drawn to these chemtrails. I don't know if they're part of it or some other thing. I have no idea what they are, but I have never filmed an orb when chemtrails were not being laid. And I'm sure you've seen my footage where I filmed a chemtrail that was laid, had been sitting there for a couple hours, and an orb comes down into it and shoots something twice into the chemtrail. Just crazy. And that day, I think we saw 10 or 15 of them all in the chemtrail, around the chemtrail, and then they just went straight up until we couldn't see them anymore. So I think the main thing is, it's not really, to say chemtrails don't exist is simply not to be informed, is simply not to go look at the source documents from military government that flat out say, we've been doing these patents. In the Air Force's case, they flat out claimed that they wanted to control the weather using that kind of technology by 2025. And I mean, there's so much you can say about it, but I think the main thing is they're absolutely real, and I have spent thousands of hours filming it and proving it.
What do you think they're up to?
All I can do is speculate. I assume weather modification is part of it, but the people who run this planet, when they do something, it tends to have a lot of uses. I'm not
yeah, it's
sure.
not single point use kind of, right? It's going to fulfill many different agendas, probably.
Certainly. I think the biggest problem chemtrails has is all the wild speculation. So, it seems like weather modification is certainly part of it. Everybody knows that there's 3 common heavy metals. What is it? Boron or barium and aluminum, and I can't think of the other one right now, but this is from lab reports all over the world. I can't speculate what else they may be doing besides weather modification, but I can tell you beyond the shadow of doubt that there are planes flying all over this planet every day, spraying stuff at different altitudes into the atmosphere.
So for people that aren't up to speed with condensation and the chemtrails and the difference between the contrails and the chemtrails, like a plane flying through the sky will show some sort of contrail and it just dissipates very quickly, right? And what you're talking about is this, and so what you're talking about is different than the persistent contrails, right? Is there a difference between chemtrail and persistent contrail?
I think contrail is a red herring. I have never seen a plane in a flight path, a passenger plane, leave any kind of a trail. So if there's contrails, why don't these planes occasionally make contrails? The other thing is the humidity is often, I live in a desert here basically. The humidity be 10, 15%, and you'll see these trails that are persistent up there. The thing that I think I would mention is a lot of people have been pushing this documentation that the modern high bypass jet engine is really almost incapable of making any contrail that would matter enough for you to see it. Now, I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you either way whether that's absolutely correct, but I can tell you from thousands of hours of filming, I don't believe I've ever seen in a modern plane a contrail of any kind. And that also muddies the water because chemtrails for a long time were mostly persistent, where they sprayed, they'd be around for hours, they'd spread out, the sky would be milky. Often you'd see a checkerboard pattern in the sky or other things from so many of them being laid. But within the last few years, you see all kinds of different ways they're doing it. The high altitude planes will often leave a trail that's a couple miles long, but it'll go away pretty quickly. But I can tell you, these are not contrails. They are absolutely spraying. I've had a telescope on them, and you can just see. To say it's a contrail is basically what you're saying is ice crystals are lasting for hours and then covering the whole sky over in milky white. It's a red herring. It's not true.
Yeah, I was on my patio in Vancouver once, and I heard, I saw this plane going over, and it had, I didn't really know whether it was contrail or chemtrails, but it was flying over and leaving this, let's call it a chemtrail, because it's stuck around for a hell of a long time, and it slowly started falling towards the my level, and it basically seemed like it came almost right down. Like I felt like it almost came right down, like from where the plane was up there, and it just took really slow, really long time coming all the way down to you could almost feel like you could throw a ball at it. And I was thinking,
the actual chemtrail itself.
Yeah. And I was thinking back then, because I had heard about chemtrails, and I thought, like, what the hell's going on here? Is this like this? I saw the plane go by, and it came, and it just sort of came down after it took maybe like 10, 20 minutes or something, but it actually felt like it came down pretty low.
Wow, I've never heard that. I have heard of people who have been hiking on mountains and had a chemtrail blow literally at their level where they were standing and had some crazy things to say. But, what's been going on recently, I have a lot of friends all over who watch the sky, and on the East Coast, a lot of people are telling me they have not seen a sunset in over a year now because chemtrails block the ability to see. And I always thought that was very interesting because I didn't really notice that here. But yesterday, I was driving down a freeway as the sun was setting, and it's due west. The freeway points due west. And there was this massive, swirly, nasty white ball of chem cloud right where the sun was setting. And I just thought, wow, that's what they're talking about, huh? But the funny thing is there's places where they talk about that in Texas. A lot of people were telling me that happens at sunrise, that they never see a sunrise. So, it's hard to tell people about chemtrails who are not willing to go out and look into it. But, just going to do a Google image search in a way that's a bit like a meme. When you put in a search term into image search, you get returns from all over the planet. If you put in the word chemtrails and do an image search, and what you see there doesn't make you at least consider that you should look further into it, then there's really no conversation we can have. Because what you will see is, skies blotted out, checkerboard patterns, just all kinds of crazy imagery. So, if someone's really interested and not sure, start there. Do a Google image search, and if that doesn't get you going, I don't know what will.
Yeah, we're so polarized though. Like the skeptics, it's so infuriating when all they do is just discount right away. Like, nope, there's no such thing, and it's condensation from the engines, and that's it. Like there's no effort at all to open their minds and just look a little bit deeper into it. It reminds me of the UFO thing too, because it's the same thing. Like even guys like Joe Rogan and stuff that can be pretty open-minded about some things, just think anybody who sees UFO is a fucking crack or a kook. And it's like, what? There's all kinds of credible evidence out there.
Well, go to my channel and look at the shooting orb clip. If I'd shot that like 15, 20 years ago, it'd probably be the most famous UFO footage on the planet. And that kind of tells you something. How is it that I'm filming this trail that's been sitting there for hours? It's just this dense white trail in a perfectly blue sky. We saw the plane that dropped it, and all these orbs are showing up. And then one goes down into the chemtrail and shoots literally like a plasma ball or something into the chemtrail. I shot that in HD. It's there. If you see something like that, the average person should at least go, wow, what the heck is that? And look into it a little bit. If you can watch that and not think there's something to chemtrails, I think there's no conversation that you can really have.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, or we just watched that video a couple seconds ago here. So I like also how you don't start, saying, oh, it's all ET craft and all this. You're kind of open-minded about what is powering these orbs and whatever, these UFOs that you're videotaping as well. What do you speculate? If you were to speculate then, like if you don't jump to the ET conclusion, which is cool, and it might be man-made or the secret space program type stuff. I mean, who knows what they have out there coming out of DARPA labs or even labs that are more top secret than that. So what do you think then? Is your feeling or speculation that it could be man-made and top secret then?
Yeah, I think, you've seen the number of UFOs I've filmed, everything from these black haloed objects going across the face of the moon, not at the moon, but in between me and the moon, boomerangs, just all kinds of things. And then the orbs in chemtrails, I think most of it is terrestrial technology. That's my opinion. Yeah. And I would point out that the average person will usually tell you that, military or whoever has all the tech is 50 to 100 years ahead of us. When you consider, like, I don't know, have you ever seen, like, the crazy hologram footage out of China where they're, like, making whole cities on a lake and stuff? And that's what they're showing the public. If you imagine that 100 years advanced, if in fact the military is that far ahead of us, it's not hard for me to imagine that everything I've filmed is terrestrial.
What are they doing? They're filming, they're showing a hologram of a city on top of a lake?
Yeah, they create a whole city that looks just real. You can look it up online. I think it's still around. Just put, I don't know, maybe Chinese hologram city or something like that. You should be able to find it.
Yeah, Darren's looking it up right now. Yeah, so now, and then you're thinking, what if they're, we're 50 years advanced to that? What could they do, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, anything we see is clearly for public consumption. The real good stuff is not shown to the public. So, even thinking about combustion engines, you've got to imagine that the best technology people are making on this planet now is far beyond any kind of a combustion engine.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we wanted to get into here too, is all the free energy and the free energy suppression. Actually, we've got a guy coming on. His name is Atomic Rod. He talks about basically the nuclear. He's kind of more about how nuclear technology is a little bit safer and how
Atomic Rod Adams.
Yeah, how it's kind of been suppressed by the oil and gas industry, I guess, and how it's we can power homes and everything else from little, what would you call it, Darren? Like a little backyard nuke?
good for a block.
So I wouldn't doubt if all kinds of stuff is getting suppressed like that. We talk about T. Townsend Brown and Tesla, and there was a guy in Vancouver there. We tried to get him on too. What was his name there? The effect, Hutchinson effect, and how you can melt metal and all this kind of stuff. It's crazy.
Oh, I've heard of that guy. There's some interesting stuff being done with magnetism as well. I mean, have you guys seen the footage on YouTube of people putting magnets down copper tubes?
I don't think I've seen that one. I've seen one where the magnet's flying around a ring, kind of levitating around a ring, but I don't know if I've seen what happens in the copper tube one.
It's kind of a crazy thing to watch because it just kind of shows you, an average person can go get a piece of copper pipe and a certain kind of magnet, and they drop it down this tube, and it doesn't free fall. It looks like it's almost floating weightless, slowly going through the tube, and it doesn't touch the sides or anything. There's a lot of videos on it. You can look that one up too. But, you start to imagine in the highest tech lab we have on this planet somewhere, what they're even doing with just magnetism.
Yeah, the maglev stuff. And you hear about these stories about the maglev trains going from coast to coast underground and all kinds of stuff. Hey, you never know.
Leedskillman said that...
Had Leedskillman?
That's what gravity was. It wasn't even... There was no gravity. It was all magnetism.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think Hattie Bow would agree that the math we've been given for gravity and basically all the foundational sciences is a very limiting thing. That it's not the good stuff, I think, is the way he goes at it. That there's a whole other world out there that the textbooks know nothing about.
So what's your next step then after all this? I mean, you could just come out with this recently. I did want to ask you kind of a more personal question. It sounds like this was the straw that broke the camel's back, or when you decided to come out a little bit, so to say, and with some of your theories because of this, this lunar wave and some of the other stuff you're finding. So was this kind of like something you've been interested in, and this was finally like it tipped the bucket over? It's like, okay, now I'm gonna kind of fully disclose my views, or
if you consider where human beings were in 2009 and where you see human beings now, there's a big kind of awakening going on. And so many people are becoming aware of just the complete deception of the people who run governments, planets, the people in charge. They're like wild jackals. And they're coming to understand that not only are they not governing and have no interest in governing or helping us in any ways, they're doing terrible things like crashing entire, governments or economies, just taking down people's retirements. And, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And the reason I shifted the pitch on what I'm doing is because I think we're at a time where we're standing in boiling water and people really need to become aware of the reality of things. Not just accept what you're told, not just use TV as your information source, but really understand that as an individual, there's a lot you can do to try to change things and maybe better things. And the biggest enemy of change is complacency and ignorance. And the average person on the street, if you talk to them, they'll say, oh yeah, we went to the moon. That's scientifically demonstratable that you were lied to wholesale. And when you consider what that means, it means the government that governs your nation did that to you. And at the same time they were doing that to you, they took Lord knows how much money out of the hands of all these people trying to live, have children, and retire. So when you begin to understand the real lay of the land, that actually chemtrails are going on, that we don't know for sure what's going on, why they're doing it, but it's happening in almost every major city that has an internet connection because they're reporting it. It's time for people to quit buying what they're told, go out, use their God-given ability to think, and understand that things are not the way you're being told they are. And we're at a point in human evolution where there's a big shift in consciousness. People are becoming so much more aware than they were in the 50s or the 60s. And I just think the time is now to really put your neck out on the chopping block. I mean, a lot of the things I say have brought a lot of adverse, people my way. But the point is, I'm doing it for a reason. I'm hoping that people will consider these things, look into them, and hopefully help make a difference so that, maybe we can change this place for the better.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that attitude, letting people, and I like the way you're like, look, I'm just putting it out there. You'll admit when you're wrong and you can let people figure it out for themselves. But look at this a little deeper, people. Things aren't what they seem.
No, they're not. And, there's a good chance that in the way I've described the things I've come to know that I've made errors, but I'm not really concerned about that. If that happens, I'll own it. I'll publicly say, yep, sorry, I made that mistake. And the reason that doesn't matter to me is because the overall picture that is so solid that I'm not worried that I'm wrong about it is that things are not the way people are being told they are. And that is, from your news, just the whole ball of wax. And the real problem is if you talk about Sandy Hook or 9/11 as an example, they'll say, uh-oh, tinfoil hat yourself, here comes a Sandy kook or whatever. And it's so frustrating because it is so well documented that anyone who truly looks at it with an open mind will understand very quickly that we're being lied to wholesale. And this is nothing new. It's been going on forever. It's how government works, basically, and has always worked.
Has there?
So can things come in? Do you think can things come in past the belt, like comets or impacts and things like that?
Yeah.
The Van Allen belts?
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we see meteors falling and shit like that, and like that one in Russia there last year, Chelyabinsk or whatever, is that what it's called?
Yeah, and a couple crater sites on Earth that are said to be crater sites. They look like craters.
Yeah, I've been to the big one in Arizona there. I don't buy any of the NASA data, and I did a clip on the Van Allen belts. I don't believe there are Van Allen belts. I believe everything we've been told about space is not true. I think NASA's main mission is to ensure that you know next to nothing about what space and our solar system really is. Having said that, try when you get done with this interview to find one image of the Earth from space that you can prove was a snapshot taken from space. Just try to do that, and you will quickly find that you can't. You can't do it. And it doesn't end there. Think of the rovers on Mars. All these people are so impressed with that. You're looking at the Nevada desert or something there, guys. There is no rover on Mars. I did a clip recently on the whole Rosetta thing. If you want to see how blatant the ruling class of this planet is, listen to this. So sometime way back, I think it was the 60s, I might have that wrong, but way back, someone discovers the comet that they're going to land on here in the modern age. Guess what day it was discovered on?
33.
That was actually a good guess, but it was September 11. Okay, so this comet was discovered on September 11. They go through time, they get ready in the modern age to go do the whole Rosetta Philae mission, and they have not seen this comet. Close. They don't know what the shape of it is. They will not know what the shape of it is until they get their spacecraft close enough. So just recently. Meanwhile, they start naming things. They name it Philae after an island in Egypt where the Isis temple is, where Trajan has some things, but the Isis temple is probably the most important for anyone who follows what the ruling class does on this planet. So at any rate, as I got ready to do the clip, I look at my wife and I say, what do you think the odds are that the shape of this comet will be the same shape as the island they named it after? And she smiled. Go watch my clip. Sure enough, one of the views that they give you of that comet that they landed on is the exact same shape as the Philae Island they named it after that they couldn't have possibly seen until the craft got there. Now, when you begin to further dissect this, you will find out that they spent $100 million on a 4-megapixel camera. And they told the public, well, that was 10 years ago. That was a damn good camera. when the fact was that Eastman Kodak had like 10 megapixels back in the 90s. And that's not even the point. If you spend $100 million, you could have had 100 million megapixels if you felt like it. You're designing a new camera. There was no limiting factor there. But if you keep digging into it, what you find is that you're told this object a gazillion miles away, traveling a gazillion miles an hour, is going to be landed on this thing, and they can't even communicate with it until 25 minutes or so goes by. In other words, if something goes wrong, the next command takes 25 minutes to get there. And then, of course, it tries to land and bumps off it 3 times. So there's your guess. At least part of your guess was right. Bumps off it 3 times. It's all charades. It's all encoded kind of New World Order Illuminati, and I don't use those words because I don't know if they mean anything, but just to say them so people understand, it's all shenanigans. And it's scary. It's so far beyond Orwellian, I don't know what to say about it, but when you're done with this interview, find a real image of Earth from space, and you will find very quickly that you can't.
I don't know if I can tell the difference.
Well, that's what they're counting on. But, you know, you've got a human ability, so, I mean, if you put effort at it, I think you can.
So you mean telling the difference between, like, it being from a satellite compared to out of Earth's orbit? Is that what you mean, Darren?
So when I take a picture, like, you've seen the quality of my images, right?
Yeah.
Do I have a budget? No,
Yeah.
I have no budget, and I barely am able to pay my rent most of the time because of what I'm trying to do here to show people the reality of the world we live in. I often ask people who come in to debunk me, at what point do NASA's images of the moon have to be better than mine?
Yeah.
You know, so if I was that guy who was going to go out and get the nice shot of Earth from space, and you know me, Crrow, do you think my image would be pretty sweet?
Yeah.
You've seen what I shoot. So if I had that sweet budget in the sky of $100 gazillion and any camera I wanted, do you think I'd have just that sweet snapshot of Earth from space without the word mosaic or computer generated or from telemetry data or, you know, all the little words they use to hide the fact that there is no snapshot of Earth from space?
What about, what about the outer planets? Because you must be able to see them with your telescope. I've never been able to see one, but
yeah, I can.
I'm not very good.
I just don't think that we're looking at what we've been told we're looking at. I don't know how else to put it. As far as the other planets, I don't really address it because I'm so focused on what I have learned about the moon. You know, I have a lot of people that want to come and say, oh, you got to get on the flat Earth bandwagon or the concave Earth bandwagon. And I politely say, I'm watching what others do. If that's true, go out and prove it, and I'll watch what you do. I'm not going to badmouth you. I have an open mind, but I'm focused on what I'm doing. And the truth is if you truly want to crack something, you really only have time for that one thing. You know, you've got to really devote some time, effort, and energy. I mean, I doubt there's many people in the country who have put in the amount of hours on the moon I have since, 2012. It's thousands of hours. And when you begin to do something in that way, you learn a lot. And it's not from secondhand, it's firsthand. So for the planets, I don't know what to say about that, but I am beginning to be under the assumption that everything we see is not really quite the way we have been told it is.
When you get back to
I wonder if it could be digital.
What do you mean by that?
Digital universe.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like somebody just made a program for the moon on their little cosmic game machine, Darren? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, like Jim Elvidge, remember, he has his evidence points to that. We don't even really live in it's more of we're in some sort of a simulation or some sort of digital thing running on some fucking server someplace.
Yeah.
Wonder if that could account for any of it.
You want to know something? A description like that, knowing what I know now, what I have come to know from firsthand research, that's an idea that you should look at seriously. Look how popular the movie The Matrix was. For people who understand what movies are actually for, that the people who have woken enough to understand that the primary function of movies is not entertainment. every movie you see in the modern age has subtext and encoded information through and through. Look at The Truman Show. There's a prime example. So many people are going to look at The Truman Show and say, wow, that's really trippy if that could ever happen. You want to know something? I've been looking at the moon for thousands of hours over many years now, and that movie really begins to parallel and encodes the information that I am discovering in a way that's uncanny, where you got to say, wait a minute, did that director know what I know? How can that be? But the point is, when you look at movies like The Matrix that came out when they did, they're giving you information beyond the fact that they're entertaining you. And people need to understand that we live in an encoded world. And when I hear digital simulation, that's a good way to think about things, because a digital simulation is an encoded world.
So if that was possible, then I wonder if it's possible. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's absolutely possible and maybe even probable that there's some sort of puppet masters pulling the strings, but I wonder if it could be like the idea that, the inside of a tree wouldn't exist then until you cut into it could somehow play into that. Maybe they did go to the moon, or they thought they did, but that was just, part of the fucking programming that now, like there's some sort of lapse that unless you pass that barrier, then you don't need to see what's beyond it. So the program doesn't need to waste any memory on it.
Yeah, that's funny you should say that. There was what's that new cartoon that came out with the scientific Rick and somebody? It's on late night kids cartoon channel. They did one like that where, these aliens had trapped them in a simulation. So it's funny you should say that. But, you do wonder about the astronauts. Was there technology that made those men believe they did go to the moon or something? I tend to think that's probably not the case, but let's face it, technology is a crazy, crazy thing, and it is way ahead of what we see in the civilian world.
So getting back to that a bit more, is your feeling that a lot of this stuff is compartmentalized to the point where people don't know that they're a part of the conspiracy? Like all the people that are, propagating this myth, it's, a few people kind of pulling the strings at the top, but the people that are disseminating the information don't know that it's false?
Of course. I mean, look at all the men and women who work for NASA. Those people aren't trying to lie to you. They're just doing their jobs. They've been told what NASA is, and they're proud of their job, and they're doing the best they can to support their families. Those people aren't, in my opinion, harboring ill will. They're just like me or you, raising a family, paying the rent. But the people at the top of the game, and they're very few. I mean, you got to be the right bloodline, the right family, have gone to Skull and Bones or Hogwarts or wherever the heck those people are educated. A lot of them are royalty from royal families that have always been in charge in one way or another. Those are the people that it's kind of like the Masons. You see so much hatred aimed at the Masons on the internet. And in my mind, I think that's a bit misplaced, because I think the average Mason is like a Shriner or anyone else. He's got a family. He's doing the best he can. He's just a low-level guy. He doesn't understand that the guys at the top of that game have a lot of information and they're doing bad things with it. So, yeah, there's definitely levels of insulation like that. And it makes the game much harder because, like I say, if you say the things I've just said about NASA and then you turn around and say every person that works there sucks, you're doing a lot of people a real injustice. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree with that too. If that's happening, it's got to be in that way. It's just, I think that's what makes it hard for people to wrap their head around, right? You hear this argument back and forth over whether the government can keep secrets or not. And then some people say, fuck yeah, they can. They kept the secret of, the Manhattan Project or whatever for so many years, or they kept a secret of this and that. And then there's people on the other side that are saying, oh no, they can't keep a secret of everything because look at what's leaking out here and there. But I mean, I believe that they can keep a secret if they want, right? And it's just, but I think it's hard for people to wrap their head around these large agencies and institutions that they're actually like lying to us. I mean, lying to us is probably not even the right word. It's like deceiving or something. It's like you're saying, Crrow. It's kind of like a high level deception, really.
Yeah, I mean, the people at the top who pull the strings. I mean, look at the Wall Street crash. Is there anyone who can look at that objectively and honestly think that, man, it's such an unpredictable thing. How could this have happened again? Really? There's people who run that system. They want to crash a country, they do it. They want to make $1 gazillion, they do it. There's insiders in every game. The problem is these insiders tend to be the same people. When I was a kid, there was something like 50 newspapers in this country. Well, there's a hell of a lot fewer of them, and they're owned by a handful of corporations now. That's not really news anymore, is it? You know, you have a very small group of people owning all the media, and that media has such a major impact on what a country believes. I mean, even movies. Why is it that I live in America and I wear blue jeans? You know, you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Culture is kind of built from movies and music and media. So when you get a small group of people controlling all this information, it's not that hard to sway large groups of people, entire countries, entire continents for that matter. And that's what we see. And you know, how many corporations at this point do own all the media that we see? Last I heard, it was 4 or 5.
Yeah,
or
I think 6.
I think I've heard 6.
I'm not really following it, but you know, would you be surprised to learn that those are all subsidiaries of maybe one corporation or something? I wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting what's going on in the media right now. I think that's one of the reasons why I think podcasting is going to keep getting, you know, more popular, is because we can have these free flowing conversations without any influence at all. And until that's illegal or we're not allowed to do that anymore. So we'll see how many shows we can do after our show, Crrow, but we'll see about that. But I like the movie part too, is because we've heard not only is there political propaganda in movies, but I get the feeling that as soon as people are close to a mystery, whether it's like the Matrix or UFOs or whatever, that all they need to do to discredit that, like I'm surprised they haven't come out with a chemtrail movie yet, because as soon as they can come out with a Hollywoodized movie, they basically discredits the whole phenomena.
Yeah, sure. And, you know, the other problem with what you're pointing out is search engine jamming. Like, when I realized that the wave was associated with equinoxes, I started to go online to do more research about it. And I kept getting this damn band called Equinox.
Yeah.
And it was weird because there were other searches, too, that I was doing, and I would get bands and, you know, acting troupes and books and video games named for this thing I was trying to search. So I would go in and make it a selective search and say nothing with games, nothing with music, you know, and I keep doing it. And it didn't take me long, because I have a degree in internet technology, that what they're doing is what I call search engine jamming. So exactly what you just said is not just going on, but in terms of how we get our information, which is from digital searches, it is so easy to make it so that the majority of search returns will just not be on the topic you're trying to find. And it's as simple as naming a band Equinox. Or here's an easier way. Go ahead and get a popular new video game and name that Equinox. You'll never find another good search again.
That's like, remember when Adam Curry was talking about the Fast and the Furious?
Yeah, now they've got like number 7 out, eh?
Well, remember he said that they killed Paul Walker because they were trying to cover up the Fast and the Furious gun running operation.
Yeah.
So they dropped Adam Curry from the No Agenda show. He said that they killed that Fast and the Furious star, because then he's like, now whenever I type anything Fast and Furious into Google, all I get is this fucking guy.
Because it was right when that was peaking.
Right when it was peaking, that Eric Holder was involved in gun running.
Yeah, well, Paul Walker didn't get murdered, and I don't believe he died. It was another one of the ritual deaths, the ritual celebrity deaths we see all the time. The dates are coded, their age is coded, everything's coded. The numerology and gematria game. If people are famous in this day and age, they're playing a game, and I don't know whether they're co-opted in or tricked in or their family gets them in, but fame in this current time we live in is no place to search for truth. I can tell you that. And in terms of Paul Walker or anyone else who makes the headlines in that way on national and international news for a week, just go look at his age, look at the date of his birth, look at the date of the death. It's all coded.
So do you think he's being forced out at that point then? Like if his disappearance, let's say, just call it a disappearance then, that you can cover a lot of ground with that word. Is it a repercussion of his unwillingness to continue towing the line, or is it a reward?
I don't know. I'm not a famous person, and to me, that part of it doesn't matter, because getting stuck looking down that particular avenue that you're bringing up is taking a microscope out. And you never want to get stuck on a micro view. You want the macro view. What I can tell you is these are staged events. Look at Robin Williams. You know, there's channels out there that don't get a lot of respect, like the Jungle Surfer is one. People should go look at him and try to hold an open mind. And I know a lot of what's said is going to be hard for the average person to hear and assimilate, but I guarantee you, if you go to a channel like that and listen, just listen with an open mind, you'll get taught something that you may not have even thought was possible, because this is exactly what we're talking about. The scale, the Orwellian scale of deception within media, music, fame, just the whole ball of wax it's off the charts.
He was born on September 12th.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
73.
September 12th, which means somewhere on the planet it was September 11th.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's funny. He was like 3 hours late. So, have you had a lot of blowback from the media, or even like from the UFO crowd, for example, since you've been doing it? Because I think I first heard about you maybe from Open Minds, or when Lee Spiegel came out with that article, and I think he let you actually respond to his response or something like that. But are you getting positive or negative feedback from that community?
You know, I built my channel trying to be a very polite individual, not allowing people to come in and use bad language, not allowing people to just get out of hand rude with each other. And that all changed about 3 weeks ago when I finally came out and decided to say what I had come to know about the moon, that it's not what you think it is. And since then, I mean, even this interview, the whole tone of this interview is much different than a typical interview I would do, for the simple fact that we don't have a lot of time, guys. If the population continues to slumber along, we're going to be a bunch of worker bees, and every right we ever had is going to be gone. And if people can't understand that, simply look at the amount of freedom you lost because 9/11 scared you. The amount of freedoms that evaporated on the tail of 9/11 is astonishing. It's beyond astonishing. We're all raised in America here telling us we got freedom of speech, we got all these rights, we're Americans. That's all gone now. The Bill of Rights,
and it's getting worse too,
things have just been removed. And it was all on the pretext that terrorists were going to come kill us, and look what happened in New York. And even if you choose to believe that that event went down the way you were told it is, how is it okay that because supposedly some crazy guys knocked over some buildings and killed some people, that the foundational concepts that built this country were just removed? It makes no sense. And if you can't put two and two together and understand that it was purposely done and it's continually done, Sandy Hook was no different. Most people think it was aimed at guns, but a lot of this has to do with simply keeping everyone afraid. If you turn on the news on any given day and you take a pad and paper and put positive on one side, negative on the other, and put check marks for each little piece of news that comes at you, you'll get an eye-opening, because it's not just that day. And on some days, there are no check marks for the positive side, unless you want to count the weather. But then there's chemtrails. That's a pun. That's a pun. But anyhow, the point I'm making is that fear is a huge part of the kind of conscious control over a population. And it's the same thing with these ritualistic deaths that we see out of Hollywood all the time. And the funny thing is a lot of this stuff is echoed in popular culture. I just made a video where I used a Red Hot Chili Peppers line. I think it was one of my moon illusion clips, where it says something to the effect of, space may be the final frontier, but it was made in a Hollywood basement. You know,
by Kubrick.
It's not like they're not telling you. And it's almost like they're doing it so they can say, we told those stupid monkeys, but they were too dumb to understand. You know, it's almost like that.
It's almost like the free karma card in a way, right?
Exactly like that. If you know, we were looking at I don't know, it was Talmudic law or something like that. Someone had pointed something out about it, and they were astonished what they'd found. And we were reading this thing that said something to the effect, and it was out of Talmudic law, that, how did it go? A guy ties up a guy, and the guy that gets tied up dies. But the guy who tied him up wasn't responsible, because the tying up of the man didn't kill him. It was that he starved to death.
Yeah.
So he didn't have that blood on his hands, or this karmic problem was not his. So, I mean, that's kind of like what we're seeing here, where they echo the reality of things in popular culture and movies and songs and all this stuff. And the problem is people have been taught not to be very subtle. Everything that people pick up on is a very gross, in-your-face thing. And you got to learn to turn on your subtle antennas, because all this stuff is being echoed in everything, in movies and news and culture and art. It's just all over the place. I mean, we were just inside watching a Subway ad, and it came on and said, the new Subway sandwich, $6. And I looked at my wife and I said, okay, get ready for the other 2 sixes. Sure enough, from 6 p.m. every day, we will serve you the $6 sandwich, and you can get 6 of them.
No.
You know, that kind of thing. No, you can call it. It's predictable. I could see it coming, because I understand what media is for. This is what we're seeing in the present age.
Huh. So how about the UFO community then? Have they been pretty hard on you? Like those, whether it's Open Minds guys or somebody else, have you ever thought about presenting your evidence in a conference? Have you done that yet?
No, I haven't. People have actually, for the most part, been pretty decent to me up until
a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they really have. There's always people who are shills, or they're trolls, or they're mean. There's always those people. But on a whole, mostly people have been pretty good to me. I have no complaints. It's been far more decent individuals than attacks. Since I have said that the moon is not what you think it is, things have changed drastically, but I think there is some hope here, because I think if I said this a year or two ago, it would have been a lot worse. And I'm hoping that as a month or two goes by and things simmer down, we'll see what the result of me saying that is.
Yeah. So have you been in touch with the other people who have caught it on tape? Like, do you guys correspond?
I corresponded with them when they contacted me and thought they had it and gave me permission to run the clips. A couple of them I have talked with, I think, via email, but as a rule, most of the time I'm pretty private, because so many people kind of want to get into my life. And, with the internet, what it is, you don't really always know who you're talking to. And, I've had a lot of cases where the people weren't really doing it for good reasons.
Huh.
So I try to keep very private, I guess is the way I put it. I'm just trying to do my research, put out what I have come to believe is true. And every time you get in a group, agendas come up and personalities. And I've just kind of found that, for the most part, doing the work by myself spares a lot of drama.
Are these other people, though, are they like still monitoring it? Like, is there, like, you're hard at it? Are you in touch with anyone else, I guess, that's kind of, on the front lines and kind of, I guess, contributing to your work?
Why, I think, at one point my wife had said to me, you should call some of the telescope shops and tell them, if you want to put me on the payroll, we're selling scopes for you, which I thought was funny. It was a joke. But the point is, I have referred so many people to their first telescope, or given them advice that, yeah, there's a literal army of people who have decided to look up and film and, become more aware of that whole aspect of things. And, I get comments, I get so many comments each day now that I can't even begin to keep up with them. If I did, I wouldn't have time to film. I think one of my close friends told me how many the moon illusion clip just went by. I don't remember what it was, but I remember thinking, God, how could you ever read each one of that many comments?
Yeah. Yeah, we should go out to Skywatch a little bit more, Darren, eh? Like, this is kind of getting me. I
got a telescope. I could get it to look at the moon, but then it's like clunky and you bang it and fuck, it's out of focus. It's just a whole production.
Is it?
And it's like the hours, you got to stay up in the summer till midnight.
Oh, that's the
And in
thing. Yeah,
winter,
it gets
it's too
dark here
cold.
at like 10 or 11 at night in the summer. So, yeah.
You're
but-
preaching to the choir, guys.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
down
you
here
probably-
in front of it right now.
yeah, probably a bit of a night owl. Huh.
Actually, I'm not. But you know, you have to be on the schedule that the big wheel above you is turning.
Yeah.
So where can our listeners track you down? Like, are you on Twitter or any place else other than YouTube, or like, do you have a website, or is there any way maybe they can support you? Do you have a donate button or anything like that?
I'm primarily on YouTube. I did put up a donate button sometime back for viewer requests. I did two things. The people who'd followed me from the beginning wanted me to put out T-shirts, so I did that. They're at cost, by the way. There's really no markup on those because a lot of my followers aren't rich people. And the other thing was they wanted a way to support my work, so I put up a link there. Primarily, you can get me through YouTube. And the reason for that is I set up a Facebook account, but just the whole, I mean, I got kicked out 3 times for nothing.
Really?
And finally just because. And then the last time, they were giving me a hard time because my name's Crrow. And they said, you got to send us an ID. So after I got done with that fight and they let me back in, I went in and deleted everything out of my account. I don't use it to communicate anymore as a protest. I do occasionally let things post through there, but the main point here is if you want to get a hold of me, my YouTube channel is the main way. Private messaging, that kind of thing.
Cool. Well, I guess we'll start wrapping it up here, and we'll link to all that in the show notes, of course. And
yeah. So for all the people who are just finishing up this interview and they're heading to your channel right now, what are the first 3 videos they should check out?
Well, since what I have done in the past 3 weeks is no good introduction to me if you're new to everything that I've been saying here, and I totally get that. If I had never heard of this and this was my introduction, I would be looking for the tinfoil hat as well. I think a good place for people to start to understand that this is really real research and the number of hours that I've put in to capture things. The boomerang clip is often interesting to people. The shooting orb clip is endlessly interesting to people. There's a whole litany of objects that just traverse the moon. Not literally. They're, I'm sure, in low Earth orbit. But they're very interesting to watch them. Those are the places to start. And then when you feel like you want to get bold, check out some of the lunar wave work. And again, you have to go at it with an open mind or it will seem completely foreign and crazy to you. But I assure you, it's not a joke.
Yeah, I guess, you filmed that yourself. So, I mean, you can vouch for it 100%. And it doesn't seem like you have any other real reason to bullshit it.
No, I basically took a vow of poverty to do what I'm doing now. It's about the knowledge here. It's about me trying to demonstrate on video, in high-def video, in a reasonable way, that the things you have been told just don't hold water, and it's demonstratable.
Could you see, like, can a consumer, is there a consumer-grade telescope that you would be able to see the landing site with?
Even a decent pair of binoculars gives you a good view of the moon. It's probably hard for most people to hold them stable enough, but small instruments, even just a 3-inch telescope, works really beautifully on the moon. You can get a good view of the moon. If you're looking for the lunar wave, I will caution you up front. The first time I filmed it was in fall of 2012. I didn't see it for a year and a half. And then I waited many months more before other people finally realized they had already shot it or shot it, in the time frame they contacted me. In other words, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever try to capture.
Is there any evidence that any of the known captures were simultaneous?
Well, there's an interesting one because on 11/9/14, one of the captures was made, and I was going out to film that night, and chem planes had been flying all day, and the sky was closed. So, no, to answer your question, to my knowledge, there has not been a simultaneous capture, but there probably would have been that night had I been able to see the sky, because the gentleman who contacted, I think it was 205 Richard Maria, I hope that's the right one, he was shooting that night, and I was going to shoot that night. I just couldn't. They chemtrailed all day, and by the time the evening got here, you couldn't even see a star.
But I guess basically, I mean, if you go out there and stare at the moon for a week or two straight for a few hours a night, you're guaranteed to see something weird.
Well, all the time that we did this interview, I've had my telescope on the moon, and guess what I've seen?
Zilch.
Diddly squat?
Diddly and squats on both.
So is it daily or once a week or once a month? Like with what frequency, I suppose, are you seeing weird little anomalies?
You know, I would say for the average person comfortably, because I don't want to mislead anyone, if you put a month in and you went out regularly and you shot for at least an hour or two at a time, it would not be long before you caught something flying. And for people who aren't used to scopes, you've got to be able to, if you're in a place where there's a lot of birds, you got to be able to tell the difference. I have the style scope where that's not a real problem because things aren't in focus until they're some miles away, and a bug close to me or a bird is invisible or see-through because it's just that far out of focus.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on the type of scope you have, one way you can almost always know you've caught an interesting object is to get it into an editor and just put a straight edge under it and see if it flies perfectly straight. Most of the interesting objects do, although I have caught a couple that are going straight and then change their trajectory. As a matter of fact, a lot of the UFO community got all excited about those, said, oh, there it is, proof. They were hollowing proof. That's little green men. But and they are interesting. Just for my money, I don't think that's enough evidence to shout little green men.
Yeah, it's so small and it's hard to tell what it is really, right? I mean, it's obviously unidentified, but
I need a digital telescope that I can just, like, it just does it. Like one of those Wi-Fi jobs. Where did I see one the other day?
we were at the museum at Vulcan.
One, yeah.
In Vulcan, yeah. Oh. Well,
they're coming down in price, but one interesting thing about a lot of the things I've captured is I have captured identifiable satellites. And the funny thing about the satellites that I've captured that I can look up in Stellarium and other places and be reasonably certain that's what it is first off, they're really fast. All the satellites that I've captured are moving across the face of the moon in most of the time a second or less. But they look like satellites. You can see the little solar panel protrusion looking things. But then there's these other things. They're round, they're black, they often look like they have kind of a magnetic halo. And sometimes I've had some going over the face of the moon for over a minute. And when I say face of the moon, I don't mean they're at the moon. I don't believe I've ever filmed anything near the surface of the moon. Matter of fact, I'm certain of it. But having said that, if you go out, you film at least a couple hours at each time you do it, it won't be too long before you get something.
Yeah, there's that crazy one. We just had it up on our TV here, that black object flip-flopping across the moon, and it takes quite a while to get across there. And so what you're saying is that's out there, definitely a few miles out there because it's in some sort of focus, yet it's obviously not, within the moon's orbit, if the moon even has an orbit.
Well, think about it. I don't know if it's true or not. We're told the moon's 250,000 miles away, and I know a pixel for my scope at that distance would be 1.33 miles. So it would have to be a big object even to take up 1 pixel. But those objects, if I've posted them on my site, I know for a fact it's not a bug or a bird. And I actually have videos up that show what birds look like.
Yeah.
And I'm in Southern California. We have very few night-flying animals. Matter of fact, a lot of times it's an owl, and it's so damn big you can see the outline of it. But there it is. If it's up, it's been vetted, and I can 98% tell you there's no way that it's a bug or a bird.
Right on, man. Well, we want to thank you for coming on. I mean, it's you're doing such good work and opening a lot of people's minds and getting people interested in looking up at the sky because finally somebody's capturing some really good quality video. That's what's fascinating, and there's a variety of it out there. So thanks for dedicating yourself to this work.
Hey, no problem. And for those people who want to go out and look at the sky, I can tell you that we just passed the spring equinox, and this is a very important time of the year. All the way up to Easter. The day of Easter is a huge deal. If you can film the moon during this period of time, even if it's just to go out and take a shot with your camera, do it. All the way up to the summer solstice. These are critical times. But from now until Easter is a big darn deal to try to help further the research that I've been doing. So if you have a camera and you just want to go out and take a shot, or maybe you have more, you want to film a little bit, Sony Handycams do a good job of filming the moon, go out and do it, and maybe you'll be surprised.
Right on, will do.
Good advice. Yeah. So, and then I guess the solstices are always hot nights, or those areas are prone anyway.
For the lunar stuff that I'm doing, I think the main game is right at the spring equinox now up till Easter. But the 3-month period from the vernal equinox that we just had a couple days ago, the day the eclipse was on for some people, all the way up to the summer solstice, there is a huge amount of energy being released from the planet, which anyone can see by all the plants blooming and the fruit and just what happens that time of year. But in conjunction with the Russian research, he really confirmed much of what I had been saying about the equinoxes and this lunar phenomena that's called the lunar wave. So right now is the time all the way up to Easter, and if you really want to get into it, a couple months after that.
Huh. All right. And then the fall one too?
The fall one is where I captured it, but the funny thing is in his research, he said that the wave absolutely happens in the third phase, where I was saying near full. Those two things jive, up until 2012. Fact is every capture we've had since has been closer, either right before or right after the spring equinox. There have been a couple that are a bit further away, but closer to the spring equinox than the fall equinox.
Huh. Interesting. All right. Well, we'll keep our eyes on the skies. Thanks for your time, Crrow.
Hey, thanks for having me, and I apologize. I was a little rough here. I'm sitting behind the scope trying to catch stuff, and I don't think I'm that good at multitasking.
No, you were great, man.
Yeah, no, you were great. Yeah, for sure. We'll have to have you on again down the road, and you can fill us in on anything new.
Oh, I'd love to. And next time we do this, I'll be sure I'm not sitting behind an HD monitor freezing my butt off outside.
Hey, it's all good, man. We were hoping for maybe to capture a little something while you're on the show.
Lunar wave.
You and me both. I'm due. I haven't caught a transiting object in quite a while now.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks a lot. We'll send you the show when it's published, and we'll keep in touch, buddy. Take care.
All right. Thanks
so
much. Have a good night.
Yeah. Bye-bye.